It is hardly a typical South Texas scene, but San Antonio is home to thousands of primates, and they live here at the Southwest National Primate Research Center.
Almost all of the major breakthroughs in human health have come through animal testing and through primate testing.
Animals are a key part of scientific research, leading to the development of some life-saving medical treatments, including for COVID-19.
But before the human trials, you have to make sure something's safe.
But using animals in this way is often the subject of ethical debate and passionate criticism.
When we talk about animal research, it's for some a difficult topic.
Advancements in science being studied right now could provide alternatives.
People have been working extensively on these so-called organ-on-chip devices. We're creating parts of the organs.
In this episode of KSAT Explains, we're giving you a glimpse of the animal research done right here in the Alamo City and the role that played in creating the COVID-19 vaccine. Plus, we're also introducing you to the science that some hope could replace the need for animal testing in the future.
KSAT Explains.
KSAT Explains. KSAT Explains.
KSAT Explains. On-demand, in-depth perspective. Perspective on stories we bring you in our newscasts throughout the day. We're looking into concerns over voting safety during a pandemic and the battle over mail-in voting. A look at how the protests and demonstrations have played out in our city and an examination of what it means to be black in San Antonio.
An issue that you have likely felt the effects of, rising property taxes.
The roots of Tejano run deep in South Texas. We examine the cultural impact the music has had in San Antonio.
There are nearly 1,000 baboons living on San Antonio's west side. It's just one of the species involved in research at the Texas Biomed campus.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of KSAT Explains. I'm Myra Arthur. On the west side of San Antonio, roughly 400 acres are dedicated to science on the campus of Texas Biomedical Research Institute. It is also home to the largest captive baboon colony in the entire world. Not something you might think about when you're at the 151 and 410 interchange. The baboon corral there is a 6-acre open enclosure with 12-foot steel walls. There's also indoor shelter for the animals. Back in the 1970s, a captive breeding program was established in the corral. But the baboons are far from the only animals there.
The Southwest National Primate Research Center is part of the Texas Biomed campus. More than 2,500 primates are housed at the center. Most are baboons, but there are also chimpanzees and several monkey species, plus Syrian hamsters, guinea pigs, and mice.
I specialize in marmoset biology. First and foremost, everyone that works with animals, the priority is animal health and well-being. We have people that specialize on making sure their nutrition is correct and varied. They don't just get the same thing every day. They get a variety of veggies and fruits and things just like people do.
Behavioral specialists make sure the primates are socializing. Enrichment teams focus on making sure the animals don't get bored. They have access to things like puzzles, music, even TV. But of course, they're not here for play.
We can't just replicate things on a computer or a dish. We need to understand how all of the systems interact with each other, and that's where animals come in, is their systems are very similar to ours, and if we can figure it out in them, then it'll help us figure it out in us.
Human trials are really good, but before the human trials, you have to make sure something's safe and effective in animals. So that we know it's going to be safe when we put it into humans.
The most recent worldwide example of that, COVID-19. When the pandemic hit, Texas Biomed shifted everything to focus on discovering how COVID affects animals in order to understand how it impacts us. Primates most closely mirrored humans.
What we discovered is when you infect them, they develop fever, some weight loss, and pneumonia, usually within just a few days of the virus, and then they recover. So it's actually a model of mild to moderate, not severe COVID-19.
We know that there's a huge amount of inflammation during this infection that is almost as bad as the infection. So that we learned from animal models as well.
Then Pfizer called. The company needed to study its COVID-19 vaccine in animals before human clinical trials could begin.
We have a comparator group, the control group, that gets a shot with no vaccine, a group that gets the vaccine. We infect them, and we're able to see whether the vaccine protects.
So historically, animals have contributed to almost all of actually to all of the vaccine developments. So from polio and smallpox, all the way up to the most current with COVID.
Animal contributions aren't limited to vaccines. They've played a role in countless medical breakthroughs.
Primates have contributed to how we understand what happens when infants are born prematurely, so NICU development, the use of surfactant, which saved my daughter, the use of ventilation systems, which also saved my daughter, NICU. Those didn't exist, and they wouldn't exist without animal research.
And in the case of Ebola, we were able to, through our research in the animals, by the way, make progress on therapies and vaccines in the Institute.
Another reason that animals are good test subjects, they live in a controlled environment. Researchers know their habits, how they sleep, what they eat. They don't sneak off to eat French fries like some humans. But for all the good animal research has done, it is not without scrutiny.
I don't want to even say what the critics say we're doing because it's so awful and we don't do those things.
You have heard the claims that animals are treated inhumanely in testing facilities, or that the idea of testing anything on a living being that cannot consent to that testing is unethical or immoral. They're concerns that we have seen play out right here from people in San Antonio as the city council recently considered whether to give Texas Biomed public funding.
The city of San Antonio should not be subsidizing the kind of cruelty inherent in animal testing.
In a not so distant future, we will all look back in horror over what we've done to other beings with the capacity to feel pain, love their families, desire freedom, and know what is happening to them is not right.
So what's the answer? How do researchers continue to innovate and create safe and effective medical treatments without testing them on animals first? Well, a solution may already be in the works.
We are really working a lot on engineering these in vitro models of human tissues and organs, basically how to recapitulate the structures and functions of human tissues and organs outside the human body.
Dr. Shrike Zhang works in bioengineering. He sees both sides, the incredible medical advancements made possible by animal modeling, but also the ethical dilemmas associated with the practice. It's part of the reason why he is working on alternatives in the field of bioprinting. Remember when Dr. Ross said this?
We can't just replicate things on a computer or a dish.
At least not yet. And that's where bioprinting comes in. Think of it as an extension of 3D printing. But instead of creating something 3D using a material like plastic, bioprinting uses biomaterial, and that could include human cells. And what's printed? Organs or parts of organs. And there's another potential alternative as well, creating human tissues on a chip.
That is to begin to recapitulate lungs, liver, spleens by adult stem cells and add some other cells in a matrix and develop some models that could eventually allow us to move to human trials without animals.
People have been working extensively on these so-called organ-on-chip devices. Basically, these are little kind of microfluidic chip devices that are allowing a lot of the dynamic microenvironments to be created.
Dynamic in the sense that they work. For example, parts of lungs or blood vessels recreated on a chip can expand and contract. Scientists can see how organs and tissues interact, giving researchers a way outside the human body or that of animals to discover how diseases and treatments affect the inside of a body.
The reason that why we're doing this in vitro kind of modeling is to really try to, of course, at some point eliminate some of the animal studies in certain kind of areas and also reduce the animal use for some other areas.
But these technologies are still very much under research themselves. Dr. Zhang says that printing something as complex as a fully functioning kidney or a heart, for example, hasn't been done yet. But the potential is there.
I think it's really about the technology that we have right now, right? So I think the technology that we have right now, I'd say animals are probably essential for some of these developments, such as a vaccine that we have been working on in the past year or two.
There's future science coming down the pike. Takes time. Science takes time.
And we can all hope to benefit from that, humans and animals alike. Thanks for watching this episode of KSAT Explains. I'm Myra Arthur. We'll see you next time.